So I'm working on these doors and trim in this house. The house is over 100 years old, and they didn't actually prime this back in the day. And I'm pretty sure this is like an oil-based paint here. But I just want to show you how easy this stuff scrapes off. I mean, I didn't want to do this. I did doors upstairs, and I wasn't able to do this. I had to do a little patching and touching up and then just sand and paint the doors, which is faster. You know, this adds I don't know, it probably takes a half hour or so to scrape this stuff off, clean it up. But in the end, it'll be better because it'll be, when I paint it, it'll look like a newer door, which is pretty cool. But wow. I'll shoot some clips, show you what's going on in here. I'll walk in there right now, right fast. This jamb here had a stop that I took out because there had been a door here back in the day. So I got to patch these. I'll use some wood plugs. Unfortunately, this is not scraping off like that door is. So I'll have to patch it and smooth it. This door, if you guys watch my videos, you don't have to reconstruct this door so I can add material to it so it'll fit the opening better. But yesterday I did all this trim here and this whole door panel here. And the interesting thing on this one is I'm not repairing all of this. I'm not rebuilding this door. I'm just painting. But on this one, the whole panel scraped out. I think I'll put some pictures in here. And the edges here, the frame, still has a couple layers of the old paint on it. And the door I'm working on out there now is here. So I got to do that door in this trim. But all these cabinets here are painted now. You guys have seen in previous videos. And I put some paper down in these, so they're ready to be loaded with stuff. I still got to make the desktop here and the shelf here. And the ceiling I'm going to put in here is going to match the ceiling up there. But this is all painted out now. This whole thing with the scraping. 2 French doors upstairs. I have to do the exteriors too, and that's pretty much about it. I got to fill this here. You know, deal with this painting inside here. And then these walls are going to be painted the same color as the, and texture, which is the eggshell, as the office upstairs. Tone it down a bit in here. Okay, so it took a good hour and a half or more to get this thing kind of scraped out to where I want it, sanded out. And I'm going to give you guys a quick tutorial on how I paint a panel door. It's the same principle. There's a couple things you want to think about when you're doing it. And I also want to point out a few things along the way. Like, for one thing, I've done this every way you could do it. I've filled voids that I could see first with all kinds of different products. I really like that Hercules product, but if I use that, that's a wood filler. When you start to paint on it, it breaks down. I've tried, you know, all kinds of caulk and spackle and Bondo and all of it. I found that sometimes it's just better to prime the thing first, flood the little voids you can with the primer and the paint, but before you get to the paint, after the primer is on, then you can come in with like a little spackle here and there, and then you can put your paint on. So I'm going to walk you through how I do it. I'm not telling you this is how you do it. I'm saying this is how I do it. And again, mention a few things along the way. I don't have a tall tripod with me. I'm going to set you down on that carpet right there, that Fernie pad, and over here as I'm doing it. And let's just get to it so I can get it done. I'm going to use a 3-inch brush on this time, and this has been used many times. I keep cleaning it out. You always want to make sure you have one of these steel brushes here. Clean your brush when you're done. But what happens is you'll get all these little squirrely parts of the brush, and typically once you start putting the paint on, they'll lay in flat. But I've also found that they don't always, and what I do is I'll get in this habit of trimming them away And keep in mind, a brush costs you like 30 bucks these days, so it's kind of a good idea to take care of your stuff, because that adds up after a while. You know, a brush, if you're painting a lot, and you're taking care of it, you're cleaning it properly, a brush could last you a year or more. When I was priming my stuff in the shop, people were goofing on my brush. That brush was probably 10 years old. So, yeah, something to be aware of. Let me wipe this off real quick because I got some little hairs on here, and then we'll get to painting. Alright, so the first thing you're going to see me doing, which is really not the way you should do, is I'm going to be painting right out of this bucket here. You really should always get yourself a separate container, because otherwise you run the risk of contaminating this paint, and that contamination of paint just means little particles get in it. But because it's more important with the final paint to do that, because with the primer, after the primer goes on, you're going to want to go ahead and hit it with a little sandpaper after the fact, so it doesn't matter that much. Alright, I'm going to be interrupted here in a moment, so let me turn this off for a second here and deal with that. Alright, so number one thing is order of operation. You want to do your panel first, then you want to do your frame. And this is going to be a little tedious for me, as you can see. I normally have way more room to work around, so I've got to be careful about this. And once you get the field done, you want to do this part and that part, and then you want to get your brush with the line of the rails so that it's painted correctly. I'll explain it as I'm doing it. This first thing you're going to see me doing is going to look a little bit weird, because you want to get the paint on fast. The key to this is move quickly and deliberately. This little trick here, where I'm painting in all these different directions, was taught to me by a painter who's in a permanent collection in the Museum of Modern Art, but when he was a kid, he was trained as a sign painter. And back then, all the paint was oil, so it would lay flatter. But the trick is, lay the paint on in all these different directions to fill everything real well. And then you're going to come in and get it to go in the direction of the grain. Okay. So now we got this whole field here done. You don't want to build up too much in these corners. This is the same principle if you do it with the even if the door is hung, you want to repeat these same steps. All right. The difference is, if the door is hung, you have to use less paint. If you get too much paint on, you're going to run into a situation where you get drag, or sag rather, and you'll see that. That's just grabbing, screwing with you. Now, the primer never goes on as nice as the paint, but this primer in particular is pretty good stuff. You'll see how I'm lifting that up, blending that really well. All right. Now we're going to get the horizontal sections. You'll see I added a piece of wood here like 7-8 years ago. You'll see this in a lot of doors in old houses because somebody put carpet in at one time. They trim the doors, and then if you want hardwood floors again, you end up with a giant gap at the bottom of your door. So you have to fill it with something. Key to this, again, moving quickly. There we go. So now I'm going to take this, I'm just going to drag this right across here, and you want your paint to follow the pattern of the wood grain, and you have to move quick so I can get back down to this after I do the top section. It doesn't matter if you start at the top or the bottom. It's cooler here now, it's the winter time, so if this was the summer, I'd be having more trouble with this, because the paint would be trying to set up too fast. I'm just going to start here and work my way down. So you'll see here what I'm doing is I'm laying the paint on. So as I work my way down the door, I'm going to have constant paint down this whole rail. Doesn't matter how you put it on right now. The key is once it's filled all the grain and voids, then you drag the wet edge of the brush straight down a couple times and you walk away. Don't play with it too much. You'll blind that way. Keep in mind, I'm not a painter. Carpenter, furniture builder. I'm looking at the back side of me now, and I apologize here in a moment. Keeping in mind, it's not a perfect setup. And I probably got too much paint on the center panel, but I'm okay with that. I was actually trying to fill a lot of voids there, so there's a reason for it. I hope this is all on screen for you. I'm only painting one side of the door. This is the side that my butler's pantry is on. The other side is a spare bedroom, a guest bedroom, and I'll eventually get to that. So I'll do the other side of the door when I do that room, because I mean, it probably won't be the same color, you know? That's good enough. So that fast in real time looks pretty good. Keeping in mind, right, again, this is the primer, so it doesn't have to be super good. It has to be pretty good though. My next step here is to go in the sink and clean the brush with this steel brush here. So your pants, you know, become a rag there. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. And again, so you can see how the paint lines, right, the brush marks are perfectly in line with the wood grain. That's what you're looking for, okay? The only way to get a hand painted look whoopsie, is to do it by hand. This is all spinning around on me. Anyhow, I'm just going to call that's it. I'll just do this short little video for you. Though I don't know how many videos I'll do on this project. You guys have seen enough already. But I just wanted to show you real quick how you paint a panel door. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a panel door for a cabinet or a full-size door like this. And as I mentioned, if it's hung, if you're painting up, which is, you can absolutely do the exact same thing I just did. You just have to be careful with how much paint you're putting on. This is a lot of paint on this center panel here, but that's done on purpose because there's a lot of little dings in it. So this paint, this primer here, this Kilz, is thick enough where it'll fill a lot of those voids and you'll never know they were there. I'll fill that with a little bit of spackle before I put the regular paint on. All right, you guys have a good day. Be good to one another. I'll catch you all in the next one.